It's Vaping Dawn to Dusk. Welcome to our show. I'm Juicy Jones. That's Polish Vapes UK. And with us today is Dimitris the VapinGreek.
Hello, my fellow vapors. It's been a long time since I did that.
You sounded great when you did that.
I've been practicing.
How did I say that? Hello, my fellow vapors. I don't want to steal your thing.
Oh, you can't. It's trademarked.
I know, exactly.
Every time you use 2% goes to me, by the way. That's Rip rule.
Oh, you actually get money if I say that? Hello, my fellow vapors. Hello, my fellow vapors. Have you seen Idiocracy? Brought to you by Carl's Jr. Brought to you by Carl's Jr. It's so great to see you. We want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's fantastic. I'm not sure if he needs much of an introduction, but VapinGreek is a YouTube legend, a vaping legend, and he's helped everybody through everything there is in vaping. And now he's working on advocacy, and we're going to ask him a million questions. Anything you want in chat, we're going to ask him too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
what about you?
Answer any questions.
Let's do a quick, what are you vaping? What are you vaping on? We got to tell people.
I vape, but I vape daily because, you might see my Instagram that I test out equipment and new stuff that comes in. So, I might be vaping something different every week, but my staples is my K-Fun Mini V3 with 12 milligram liquid for my mouth to lung. And then I have some kind of a sub-ohm tank because some of the liquids that I like at lower nicotine strengths that just need more heat. So currently I'm testing out the Squape X, the new Squape X, which I'm vaping a low nicotine liquid in this for lung inhale. And I really enjoy the Super Tank by Tobacco. I know it's not the most popular tank out there. It's probably the cheapest tank on the market, but let me tell you something. This tank works fantastic. So for those that are looking to get a tank and don't want to spend $45, $50, good coils that last a long time. The Super Tank, easy to fill. I think it looks good too. The Super Tank Mini by Tobacco. That's kind of what I generally use through the day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to criticize some of these. Some of the more recent inexpensive tanks are good and they last. They're really good.
Sure.
Last
night I had my 15th anniversary with my wife last night, and we went to Ruth Chris to have dinner, and I had this little Joytech AIO with me with a 1.5 ohm coil, and it did the job. It worked fantastic, and it's a really good, enjoyable vape. So again, at $22, I mean. The expensive stuff and the hobbyist stuff and the collector's pieces, they're all really nice to have. I do have a top hat right here, but honestly, with $20, you can get a really enjoyable vape, and that's the beauty of innovation and where we've come in the last 6-7 years of vaping.
Yeah, it's amazing. I saw that on your Instagram. By the way, happy anniversary. That was very sweet. I love that. Yeah. I want to say good morning to everybody in the chat. Thanks to all you guys, all of our great viewers. We have tons of people who showed up today too. And Doug Moore, JH is here, Michaela, Polish Vapes is here. I can't believe Polish Vapes UK showed up in chat. And Stephen Ford of Vape, great to see you again. Thomas Hall, Nikki. Nikki was one of our first guests. In fact, she was the first guest on this show last October, I believe. And April and a bunch of other people. And I'm sorry if I can't name everybody, but we love all you guys. And as we go, we're going to take questions from you.
Yeah. Before getting into your vaping story, you mentioned your wife. For as long as I've watched your videos, I've not ever heard you mention. Does she vape? Or?
Yes, absolutely. Me and my wife switched at the same time. She was 1 day later than me. And my wife represents pretty much 80% of the vapors in the world. Every day she wakes up and doesn't have a cigarette, she's happy. But you're never going to see my wife on social media, blowing clouds or,
Right.
She uses an Inikin T18 with 12 milligram e-liquid, and she's happily satisfied with everything that I have back here. I was like, here, honey, try this, and she's like, I'm satisfied with what I got. So she's been using the Inikin T18 lately, the Aspire K3, and the Plato, the new Aspire box with the Nautilus coil. She vapes at 13 watts at 1.8 ohm. So she does vape, and she's an ex-smoker. And everything that I get in that's new for starters, I give it to her. And she's my prime tester on starter kits. If I give her something and she loses interest, like within 30 seconds, I know this is not meant for new people. Prime example, the Kabuki, which I think the Kabuki is a really great tank from mouth to lung. But just the fact that, I tried to unscrew it when it first came, it was stuck. And then, having her show how to feel it, like within 30 seconds, she lost completely interest. And I think it's extremely important when we're talking about new equipment to use people like that. Don't use people like us. Okay, we've been vaping for a long time. We're gadgety guys. even if we have to fiddle with it a little bit to get it to work, we still feel like it's a good vape, which is very unfortunate because it's misguiding new people.
Yeah, I really have to put on that beginner's mind.
Yes.
I'm like, I need to put on my beginner's mind.
Be very objective when it comes to stuff like that. So we have to see it as somebody that's trying it for the first time. And when I see her picking up the T18, I showed her once. She opens it up, fills it, and it's plug and play. There you go. That's a great starter device to give to somebody, and somebody that wants to stay off cigarettes and not get into, the stuff that we're into. So yeah, she does vape. I guess I extended that question a little bit too much, but yeah.
That's great though. I love that because there's a lot of people who are we aim to at least speak to the people who are, looking at the vape shop and may not have the confidence to walk in and ask questions. And one of those things is, what do I need? And if you're quitting, I applaud you for the IO and the T18. I think those two things are masterpieces of modern tech. I gave away all my T18s. I had 3 of them, gave them away, even my personal one, because they're so effective. And neither one of those people are smoking. And I still wish I had mine because I like taking it in my pocket to the store and stuff. I did.
It's unfortunate that more stores don't carry it. It's one of the complaints that I heard from Anakin is that a lot of stores are not picking up the Anakin T18. And they're saying that our customers don't want it.
Bullshit.
And I think it's bullshit. Yeah, absolutely.
Bullshit.
It's just like you hear a store saying, well, we don't carry anything over 6 milligram because our customers don't want it. Well, let me bring you back to reality. If you don't carry more than 6 milligram liquid in your store, that means you're not bringing in smokers, which means you failed, and we have failed as a community trying to help smokers quit. If all you're doing is catering to people that do vape, your customers are going to run out. You keep recycling people, and more stores that are opening up, it's going to thin down the industry. And I even hear that complaint now from store owners that are friends of mine across the United States. Business is slow. Every Tom, Dick, and Jerry is opening up a shop. If you're not going to have the equipment and make a comfortable setting for smokers to come in, your days as a business is numbered. Pretty much, it's simple like that. You have to have the T18s. You have to have the 18 milligram nicotine to help smokers and make it inviting for them to come in and comfortable. Because if you come in as a smoker and you looking to buy a T18 and the guy behind the counter is using a dual 2650 box mod that is blowing just massive clouds, they're gonna feel like, hey, is what I'm getting sufficient enough for me? It's gonna make them feel really, really uncomfortable. So let's keep that in perspective. As always,
they're gonna think it's a goal to reach. I tell people all the time that Nick level isn't an achievement. Getting a certain piece of gear isn't an achievement. The only achievement you get is, did you not smoke today? You get a gold star for that, and that's it when you're quitting.
And that's what my wife does. That's why she continues to use 12 milligram with the delivery method that she does, and she's happy with that. And why force her to use something that she's not comfortable with? Number one, and number two, why change her style? She's not smoking, and I guess that's the goal, and we're happy with it.
Yeah, you're right. And the good stores are too smart for that, and are appealing. Like, I want to plug my favorite local store, Future Vapor, future-vapor.com. And Future Vapor is on Instagram too. They are great because Zach was our other first guest on this show, and he is focused on quitting smoking, and he loves all the cloud chasers and everything. And the guys, we build Claptons and hang out. But if you're hanging out there and you're chasing clouds and doing weird stuff, and the smokers come in, if you know the store, to pipe down and get out of the way because he's going to take care of them. That's how it is, because the smokers get the preference, because that's what we're here for, to help people.
We think we're big sometimes, but we're not big at all. Even when it comes to, types of shows like this and YouTube and our social media, some popular reviewers have a couple 100,000 subscribers, right? And there's 40 million smokers out there. So we're really not that big.
No, not even the penetration's nothing.
So if we can't reach those 40 million smokers in the U.S., then we're not doing our job, plain and simple.
Yeah, I agree. It's really important. That's one of the things we aim to do here at Vaping Down to Dusk, is make sure that people get the message that it's hard to quit smoking for everybody. And even if you're like me and Luke and Dimitri and vaping on your newest, greatest thing, and by the way, I pulled out my twisted message in my dual 26-650 box here, just for you, Dimitri, and for your story. Even though we're doing that, we still are sympathetic and we understand, and we're trying to make a message that goes through them too. So we're talking to you too, baby.
Sure. And vapors should have that same mentality as well, too, by the way. The newest poll shows that 57% of Americans believe that e-cigs are just as harmful as tobacco. You know
And
what?
we have to change that.
We failed. We have failed, and we're miserably failing in the public perception and what this opposition is doing as well too. So, as a vapor, have that responsibility. As a pioneer, as somebody that quit with this product, have that responsibility on you to educate and try to help people. To me, I've helped hundreds of people quit smoking, and even today, I was in Greece this past summer. I helped my brother-in-law 2 packs of Rothmans, and
Wow.
2 packs for 30 years.
Wow.
And he finally quit. And every person that I help to this day is more satisfying than anything that I do in vaping.
I agree with you. The reason I talk about those T18s I gave away is that that's 3 of the 5 people that this year I've helped quit smoking, and it's my proudest achievement of all time. I don't even care if that number's low. I don't give a shit. There's probably other people out there that I don't know about that I've helped, and I want to know about that. But that is why we do this.
You like to think about this. You might quite possibly have saved a life. I mean,
exactly.
what other, what else can you do in your daily life or your journey in life that you can actually claim that you helped somebody save their life? I mean, it's
I got goosebumps when you said that. I'm not joking.
And
that's how I feel.
Every vapor should feel goosebumps because it's the truth. You could possibly have it, extended somebody's life. They can spend it with their family, and you should be very proud.
Yeah, and that's not even possibly. There's 100% chance you extended their life a little.
Mm-hmm.
If every cigarette you don't smoke is better than whatever. That's so killer. So let's take a question from the audience too, because one of the questions we've been asked over and over and over, and I forgot I didn't prep you for this, but you don't care, is how do you feel about Indiana's current laws? I know you've got an opinion about this.
I do, and it's something that I worked really hard when this first came into my radar. It was probably almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I just have this passion for advocacy and research, and I started researching who was behind it. In order to attack a problem, you have to see where its root is, right? So, okay, we have this bill on the books in Indiana, but how did this bill come about? It's so unreasonable, so onerous, so burdensome. So I started doing some research with my team from TSFA, and we went back and found some really, really nasty connections to this from the casino industry, from a monopoly liquor distributor in the state, a company called Monument Vapor at the time that was partnering up with them to have the only facility in the state to be able to produce liquids, so pretty much monopolizing. We found people on their boards that were ex-VPs of Altria, with a lot of tobacco connections. So we knew that this was really, really bad. And we also found out that this was a huge lobby group. So they had about 7 lobbyists. We're talking about millions of dollars invested in getting this bill passed in Indiana. So Indiana at the time was not really organized with a state association and a lobby group. And I think that was one of the reasons why we for the last 2-3 years have been trying to get these states organized to have a lobby representation in every state. However, at the time, we were not prepared to handle the amount of money and lobbying that went behind the Indiana bill. I know Evan McMahon from Hoosier Vapors did his best. He tried to go in there and negotiate with him, which, negotiations happen with money. So if you're not powerful enough in the state, you're going to lose, plain and simple. So, but he did the best of what he could at the time. And unfortunately, that bill passed. Now, I think that a lot of people don't realize that politicians, most of the time when they vote on something, they're not really educated on it. So law in this country is made in a very grim and painful way.
Ugly.
So a politician agrees to support a bill for another politician if that politician supports his bill. So it's kind of a deal made. They bring this up to him and like, oh, we're trying to protect the kids and we want to have good manufacturing in Indiana, blah, 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 sign it and support it. And I think a lot of the politicians now looking back at what they signed, they didn't really know what they were doing. So the bill in Indiana is basically a monopoly, trying to monopolize the manufacturing of liquid in the state and also the liquid that comes into the state.
Yeah, it's a money grab.
It is. And it's just specifically from a group that is trying to kind of take over, right?
A consortium.
Right. And which is unfortunate because this is just a little side note. If a company thinks that they're going to monopolize liquid in a state, that they're going to make millions of money, it's actually going to work counterproductive to them because vaping works because of the variety, the affordability, and the availability of products. So if you go to every store in Indiana and they only have 20 liquids from this one company, vaping will die. These stores will go out of business. So even though you're trying
You're going to sell, everything's going to go to the USPS, who's not going to be complicit with you. The USPS federal government is going to say, oh, you're right. You've passed a precious state law. We're going to order every postal office worker to inspect every package and make sure that your stupid law is passed. Are you insane? They're not doing that.
It won't happen.
Hell no.
So back to the law.
Sorry, I went off on that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You're absolutely right, though. I mean, people think that monopolizing competition is what's healthy for this industry, right? So, and the vapors like it. The vapors want to have to go into a store and see 20, 30 different brands of liquid and choose what they like. And maybe every week they like to change flavors. So,
that's right.
The bill passed, and then all of a sudden the Indiana shop owner said, "Oh, what the hell happened?" You know, it just happened so quick, right? And it's supposed to go into effect July of 2016. Thankfully, there are 2 lawsuits right now. There's a state lawsuit that's brought on by Hoosier Vapors. And then there's a federal lawsuit, the one that I'm part of, from the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition. RightToBeSmokeFree.org is the website, which basically says that this is an antitrust issue. The securities provisions within the bill are, number one, they're way more than probably whatever the FDA would do. And number 2, there's really not many people that can comply with this. In fact,
they're totally onerous.
Right. They've put out the security there's only one security company in the state that could handle it, and they're taking it by application case now, and I think like only 3 companies have been able to get through. So all the moms and pop shops pretty much are screwed.
I'm so glad to hear that you're the one who's participating in that second lawsuit. I didn't know that, because to me, the first time I read about this was only a few weeks ago. You were right when you said it happened fast. Yeah. It happened a few weeks ago. I read about it. My first thought was, this is a little group of people trying to grab money, just like they do in Washington State with our stupid liquor control board. These are the biggest crooks in the world. Anyway, it looked just like that, and I thought, man, there's going to be lawsuits immediately.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that yours came to pass.
Well, I mean, the company that I work for, Mountain Oak Vapors, even though we don't have that many wholesale clients in Indiana, I think we only have like 2 or 3, we felt like it was important to participate in this lawsuit to stop it there so it doesn't go to other states. Because if this passes, this will set the example for other states to follow, and we just want to stop that. We just want to, end it right here and then use that example in other states. So if another state tries to bring it up, say, hey, hold on a second. If you try to pass this, we're going to come at you with a lawsuit just like we did in Indiana, and we're going to win. I believe we're going to win in Indiana. I think that...
I believe you are too.
We've done a lot of work, and we've talked to a lot of people in Indiana that said, even people within the government that said, hey, we're not prepared to enforce this. I mean, we're not prepared to... We don't really know what to do in this case. I mean, my biggest argument is the same bill tried to pass in Georgia this past year. So the same group of lobbying brought it to Georgia, took it to a legislator there, and the legislator tried to bring in, we were alerted early because in Georgia we do have a lobbyist a year round. So the lobbyist alerted us that it's coming. So we really quickly organized. We got in a chat. It was me, Julie Westner from Casaa, Alex Clark from Casaa, Brian Fodick from Enjoy, Kevin Skipper from Vista, Greg Connolly from the AVA, the executive director from the GSFA, Bill Funderburk, and Jason Wells down there. And we really quickly organized to shut this thing down. So we went down to the Capitol. We talked to the committee. We talked to the legislator that brought it on that said, listen to this. She said, I'm just doing this to protect the kids. And I said, hold on a second. I said, the FDA has been trying to make regulations on e-cigs for 5 years. And you mean to tell me that you this legislator from, Bumblefuck, Georgia, whatever, you're going to pass manufacturing standards in your state in 2 months? Makes no sense at all.
No. And it's another case of these little housewives get the little bug in their bonnet. They're going to change the world, and they have the initiative system or something stupid, or the backing of a lot of tobacco money.
And I think that she truly believed in her heart that she was doing the right thing to protect the kids. However, once we start talking to her and explaining to her about the product, this legislator thought that big tobacco e-liquid was regulated already by the FDA. And I said, hold on a second. You cannot exempt big tobacco companies. They're not regulated either. And she was shocked. She didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And these are the people in our lives that are making decisions and passing laws that affect our lifestyle. So thankfully, we were able to shut it down in Georgia just like that. It went away. I'm sure it might come back next year, but we have to be prepared, and we have to keep paying these lobbyists to represent our interests. So again, back to the Indiana thing. I think that we are going to win at the end. cartridges were exempt in Indiana. So pre-filled cartomizers were exempt. So there's my case. My first case is that the same liquid that goes in these cartomizers is the same e-liquid that we use. So why are they exempt? So that right there shows you that it's a monopolizing system.
It's clearly targeted to exclude certain people and include certain people specifically.
Right. I did a little piece for the lawsuit the attorneys asked me to do. One of the arguments that the politicians made in Indiana was that pre-filled cartomizers are pre-filled, so you can't alter them. So I actually went to Indiana when I was there for a vape show. I bought a cartomizer kit, and I popped the top off, and I refilled it with my e-liquid, and I vaped it on camera, and I submitted it to the lawsuit so they can take it for their court case, just to show that this is not the case. It's not just the pre-fill, but that along with other stuff that we have that I really can't talk about. I think that in the end that we will win. It's unfortunate not to see more participation from the Indiana vendors. I'm a little bit disappointed. Most of the people that are funding this lawsuit on the federal level are out-of-state vendors, and yeah, some of them do have a lot to lose. There's some big companies on that lawsuit, and you can see them on the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition, who has submitted financially to help for this. But we need to get the people within the state to fight, right? Those are the ones that really have to step up, because not only we need the financial help, but we need the political sway. The people within the state are the ones that vote, that have employees, that have families, that can shift an election. We can't vote in Indiana, right? But they have the political power to do it. So they need to step up and be more active and contact the representatives and say, hey, listen, this will put me out of business. This will affect my livelihood. This will affect my health. If you don't help me, I'm going to vote you out of office. And that's how we make change.
Yeah, in fact, for everybody who's wondering, one of the things I did was I went to the Google and I just found out everybody has 3 representatives. You have a House rep and you have 2 congressional representatives. And all you have to do is put their names. Well, for your state, it could be a little different, but for federal, it's this way. But just Google it, get their names, put their names in your phone book, and call them. And the people that answer the phone are really nice, y'all. Their whole job is to answer the phone and keep track of what you want to say. So just like he said, all you got to do is call them and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, my zip code so-and-so, I'm a constituent. You don't have to have voted for them. It's irrelevant. If you're a constituent, they still represent you. So you say, I'm a constituent, here's my zip code, here's my name, and I just want you to tell Representative whatever their name is, to vote for or against this bill. And because it affects my health, blah, 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 blah. And they have a piece of paper with all the names of all the bills on it. They flip to it, and they'll write in all that info and go yes or no, and they hand that to them. That's their job. This happens in law. So they can choose whether to ignore it or not, but it's a matter of public record, and these things happen, and that's how we actually vote, y'all.
Yeah.
Civics 101 by Juicy Jones right there. That's how it actually works.
Well said. Couldn't have said any better.
And don't be intimidated. I've done it on camera before, live on Instagram, 15 seconds.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm proud of is the ease that I have now going up to politicians, no matter who they are, and they don't really care that you quit smoking with vaping. It's irrelevant to politicians. So stop using that as your main tool, because when you go to a politician, you say, oh, vaping saved my life, and all they hear is blah, 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 blah. That's all they hear. But if you go to a politician and say, hey, listen, I vote for you, and I have 10 votes behind me, and, here's some money for your reelection, or I'm in your district, and I have 10 employees that, can lose their jobs, that's what really sways a politician: votes and economic impact. So those should be your your 1 and 2 tools to use it when you're speaking to them. And thankfully, I've been blessed with I have I'm really social. I can talk to anybody, no matter if they're a Democrat or Republican. I do some background check. This is something that Brian and Pamela Gorman, Brian Fodig and Pamela Gorman taught me, is always do some background work on the politician that you're talking. For example, you might have a politician that his wife, because she's a politician's wife, got involved with the American Cancer Association. And a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Don't walk into his office and say, fuck the American Cancer Association, they're against e-cigs, and fuck them, because he's not going to jeopardize his marriage for you because you quit smoking with vaping. So do a little bit of research on the person that you're talking to. That way you can hit on points, that really, you can resonate with him, and they can sit down and listen to you. So having some background research on the politician is extremely important. And then obviously what you're going to say, economic impact and votes, those are the 2 main things.
That's so important you said that. I'm so glad you did, because you touched on one of the most important things. Kevin Skipper said the same thing when I was doing live shows on the other channel before, and it is that we have to educate ourselves first. And so before you do anything, make sure you understand. It's like I always tell people about your noisy crickets. Don't buy anything like that until you
Right.
already understand your own batteries and how it works. And in the meantime, buy something regulated. It's great. There's tons of fun stuff if you're just looking for good stuff. But don't buy one of those or anything mechanical until you understand that stuff. So it's the same thing. Educate ourselves. Find out about the people you're talking to. Find out about the laws that affect you locally. We have a number of Indiana viewers who, like Rhonda McGee, who are very active and very loud, and I really thank them for bringing all this stuff to my attention too.
It's extremely important to be educated. How many times have I heard people going and saying, "Oh, you know, it's just water vapor." I'm like, "Shut up, dude." I mean, this is the kind of stuff that really, gives a black eye to our community. Be educated, and no, it's not water vapor. However, the particles that we put out are by magnitude, less harmful than our everyday breathing. That's what you should be saying. And if you're not, I'd rather have a smaller group of people talking that are more to educate than a large, loud group that is saying the wrong thing. And it's more effective, I think, in that way.
Like Fox News and Harvard.
Yeah.
Like two of the worst things. This came up to me yesterday. I was at my doctor, and I just vaped just to show. And we started talking about what's in that. And then this is the conversation we had. I said, no, it's not just water vapor, but it contains, it contains these 3 things.
Right.
And plus a couple of flavors. And he's like, well, that's not nothing. I'm like, no, it's not nothing. But look, you just ate an orange. You just ejected more stuff into the air, more chemicals than I did when I blew out, even though mine was more voluminous. You actually did eject more stuff into the air that we're breathing. And the room air and breathable air isn't that clean. It's full of pollution, and humans tolerate it. But you can't pretend like this is worse than pollution from standing next to the bus going by. Well, in Seattle, all the buses are electric. But anyway, you get the idea. But that's the conversation we had. So that's absolutely right. It's like, it isn't just water vapor, dumbasses. But it's not. But it's indistinguishable from room air and toxins.
I think if for people that want to find out more about what's going on in Indiana, the website is actually r2bsmokefree.org. And what I like about it, it gives a really good update. I'll put it here in the
R2B.
Yeah, and you can just copy it and post it and put it in the replay as well too. Keep up with what's going on because it's ever changing, and it has a really nice update of what's happened up to now, and it kind of breaks down exactly what we're arguing and what we're trying to fight for, and be aware and participate. I mean, if you can't financially participate in this, and I definitely don't expect vapors. This is one thing that I'm 110% against is vapors paying for lobbyists, and I'm just adamant about that. But pass it on to your businesses in Indiana. Hey, take a look at this website, see what they're doing, and get out there and support it. Just sharing this with other businesses, I think, is extremely important for the vapors and say, hey, what have you done in Indiana? As a vapor, I would be demanding, right? In any state, I'll be honest, I'll be demanding. I'm your customer. I drop money at your store. What are you doing to protect my right to keep spending money with you, right? And if you go to the store and you ask them, what are you doing for advocacy? And they look at you like you're from a different planet, just turn around and walk off and leave. And unless more vapors start doing that, we're not going to see a change. So it's extremely important for us to shop with our spend our dollars wisely as well, too.
Vote with our money, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's what, man, it's another thing. Let me, once again, shamelessly plug Future Vapor. He's so great. And I love that guy because whenever I ask Zach what he's doing, he just goes, oh. And then you start hearing what he's doing. Right. It's like, that's how he approaches it. He's not like trying to make something up. He's like out there doing something. And when you hear the stories, you're like, oh man, that's depressing. Thank you.
I hope you're getting 2% by that shop, by the way, too. That's fun.
Huh?
I hope you're getting 2% from that shop.
No, I just love him. Just do it out of love.
I kid.
Nobody in Seattle watches me. Only people elsewhere for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they will. If you guys surprise me, type in chat or leave a comment if you're actually here in Seattle.
Yeah. I'd like to get you to tell everybody, obviously, your vaping story, and then I'd like to hit on a bit of the TPD. So
sure, absolutely.
If you could just tell everybody how you quit.
Yeah, we didn't ask you your vaping story yet. We ask every guest to tell us their...
Yeah, when I get into it, talking about vaping, I'm, just getting in that zone. So back to where I started. It was funny because my father died from a heart attack at the age of 39. I was only 2, and he was a very heavy smoker. Had cardiovascular disease. Of course, this is back in the late 60s, early 70s, so the technology hadn't advanced at the time. I mean, they just barely started doing bypass surgeries, and so when I was 38, I was approaching his age. I was smoking, a pack of cigarettes a day and smoked for 23 years. And I have 2 young daughters, and I said, I got to quit. I mean, I got to do something to get out of this habit. So I tried pretty much everything that was out there, you know, from NRTs and patches and gums and Chantix and all the usual stuff. And, you know, I'd quit for a week or something like that, and obviously, you know, immediately go back to it. And I think that goes to show that it's not really, well, I mean, nicotine is a part of it, but I don't think it's just nicotine that we're addicted to. I think that the physiological effect and the calming effect of the throat hit is something that I wish we could do a study on. I really wish that we could fund a study.
It is very interesting because I feel that too.
Yeah, I just don't think it's just nicotine by itself, or patches would work, right? Even though they have a 7% success rate, even lower than that sometimes. So my wife saw our neighbors across the street using this little, you know, stick battery, and it's vapor and it's not. So she comes to me and she says, hey, you know, check this thing out. And I said, you know, what the hell? Give it a shot. Well, you know, I don't know. It's probably not going to work, but, you know, we'll try it. So my wife ordered what's called the couples kit, right? It's for the husband. From
I like the sound of that.
To electronic cigarettes. So you basically get 4 stick batteries, 10 cartomizers for $150 what we paid at the time. And I can't fault V2 because, you know, I think we bash sometimes some of these companies, but hey, if it wasn't for V2, I wouldn't be here where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I bought it too. I mean, not that particular one, but yeah.
Yeah, so the V2 kit came in, I read the instructions, I charged it up, and I screwed on my first cartomizer, which was, I think it was called Cowboy at the time. It's supposed to be like a marble or whatever, you know.
Oh.
I screwed on the cartomizer and I took a puff and I was like, shit, you know, I never touched another cigarette. I was what we call automatic switchover. I mean, from the moment that I took a puff on, I never touched another one.
That's excellent.
In fact, I had 8 packs of you know, me and my wife bought a carton a week of cigarettes, and I had 8 packs in my carton of cigarettes. My wife was very frugal. She had let hers dwindle down because she's the financial brains of this relationship. And she picked up hers and the next day, and you know, we just never touched another cigarette. And what I found really interesting in the beginning is that were there some struggles? Yeah, if I wasn't like really into electronics and gadgety stuff, would it have worked? Maybe not. But I quickly realized that there is something to this. And keep in mind that this is back in, you know, 2010. The technology was a little bit different. We didn't have brick and mortar stores. We didn't have, you know, the availability that we have now. But I got online and I went to the #1 source, which was ECF at the time. And I think it still is. It has a lot of great information. And I was like, holy shit, this is a whole different, you know, world here on the internet. You know, all these people are vaping and they're using flashlights and they're using this and they're using that. And I discovered that the same batteries that I bought from V2 for $150, I can buy them from Vapor for Life for $7. So I was like, holy shit.
Can you believe it took me like 2 years to reach that point? To realize that there's a world out there of other, I was like, what? I
can believe it. I mean, and again, it goes to show you that, hey, if you were happy with what you had and you weren't smoking, who, you know, this is really for the enthusiast, you know, passionate crowd. We're very, very small percentage that we are online, like we are constantly. But you know, I don't find it weird at all, especially with the emergence of the brick and mortar stores. There's really no reason for you to go online anymore, unless you get into that hobbyist stage. I see customers all the time, you know, 40-year-old, 50-year-old ladies that come in, get their 2 bottles of juice, 5 replacement coils, and they're done. Same in 2 weeks. You know, that's what they do all the time. And they don't care. They just bypass that entire, you know, wave of new devices that come in. They'll have like a little Ego or the little iStick, and that's what they're happy with. So that was pretty much my beginning to e-cigs, and I quickly got involved in the online community and started talking to a lot of people and making friends online and trying to improve my vape. What was really funny about my story is that I bypassed the Ego, I bypassed the Cardo tanks. I just didn't like the vape.
I envy you, sir. I envy you there, sir.
Yeah. I quickly discovered that a 306 at the time Cisco atomizer, which had, you know, came up with low resistance. Now, keep in mind that Cisco from Avid Vapor was the inventor of low resistance, because at the time 3 ohm was the standard when it comes to resistance. So these 3.7 volt batteries did not have enough power to give you a satisfying vape. So Cisco dropped the resistance to 1.5. 1.5 was considered low resistance at the time. How much that has changed, but
yeah, that was just about when I started vaping, when that was low.
yeah. So 306 atomizer, we used to buy them and remove the bridge from them and drip directly into the atomizer, and it was just it's great vape. Just great flavor, great satisfaction. It had that restrictive draw like a cigarette, and so I started dripping before dripping was popular. In 2011, I started dripping into a 306 and then eventually an HH 357. And I went through that phase for almost 2.5 years. So it was good that I bypassed, the card and all that. But my wife at the time, dripping was not, I was just, she couldn't do it. So I bought her a Rio, which for those of you that don't know, Rio is one of the original squonkers, and put a 306 atomizer in it that fed from the bottom. That way she could squonk and then vape, and she really enjoyed that.
That's interesting, yeah.
She really liked that. So that's kind of like the beginning of the journey, and then for my age group, because a lot of the people in the community are in the 18 to 25 range. For my age, being almost 40. What I quickly realized that there's a lot of people out there that probably want to try e-cigs, but they just don't know. It's a hurdle. It's difficult, and that's why I started my YouTube channel at the time to reach. In fact, if you look at some of the early videos, I'm playing like classical music in the background.
Yeah,
it's just really, really silly. But what I was trying to do is I was trying to reach an adult crowd. That's why I always try to keep not cussing in my videos. Try to keep it simple. No flashy intros. No, this is it. This is how it vapes. This is my experience with it. And, keep it short, unlike Pubisardo's matinee videos of hour and a half. So I
hold on. There's 27 minutes at the end of this of me clicking this button, and while you're watching a dial go up to 0.3 of a centimeter. Look at that shit.
I got to hand it to him, though. If if you want to find out everything about a device, even, who made it, who's married to, their dogs, all that, you watch Pubisardo videos. But that's how I started doing these YouTube videos, to reach that older crowd, that 35 to 40 crowd, not to make the same mistakes that I did, and try to help them bypass kind of those struggles that I had, and try to find some. And that's how it kind of all started, and that's how we ended up today to the VapinGreek persona, I guess.
Well, we're all glad you did. I know everybody's happy. There's been 10,000 people thanking you, by the way. By the way, super quick, before you answer his TPD question, real quick, how'd you meet Phil Busardo?
Okay, so
people won't stop asking that.
Let me just preface this by saying that me and Phil are extremely good friends. Me and Phil are not gay.
No one here thinks that, by the way.
And our vape styles and opinions on devices are 99% similar. So, except our liquid preference. I hate that Pete Treslecci, whatever he vapes. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like my stuff anyway. So, what happened is that somebody messaged him and said, "Hey, have you seen this video? This VapinGreek dude or whatever." And he watched my video and he sent me a message on Facebook to ask me a question because he was looking at the same device. And we started talking about the device, and what we started, I'd say like, "Oh, it vapes like this," and he's like, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm getting," or "This is wrong with it." And he's like, "Yes." So we kind of became friends online, and then we started, collaborating on some of these reviews, because it's always good to get 2-3 sets of eyes on something. Maybe you miss something. Or just to kind of compare our notes to be accurate on the stuff that we're saying. He was a little bit more technical as well too. So if I had like a technical question, like I can take a device and vape it, and if it says 3.7 volts, if it's not giving me 3.7 volts, I know, because I've been vaping for so long. I can tell if the wattage is off, or but he can actually stick it on a machine and tell me, yes, you're right. So there was a lot of that going back and forth. And we arranged to meet at the first Vape Bash in Chicago, and he flew out there, and I flew out there, and that's where the first time that we met.
With first sight.
Yeah, and then it just clicked immediately, and then we just kind of became, the bromance that you guys know today. But behind all that shtick that you see and all the fun that we have, because I do believe that we should have some fun, right? Because it's a doom and gloom for vapors every day. Behind that shtick, we like to have some fun, and we like to, this back and forth ball busting that goes on. I think a lot of people enjoy it, even though there's a few trolls out there that say, "Oh, you offended me because I'm gay." I'm like, I got more gay friends than they probably do, and they're gay. So, and I've helped a lot of gay people, which the lesbian and gay community. There's a lot of smokers, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
In fact, the same number of smokers as any other community. Smoking is everybody.
Absolutely. And we need to be able to help them and not blast them and whatever. Anyway.
My brother's gay. I'm an honorary gay person.
Good for him. The fun part of it, I think, takes away a little bit of the edge of the seriousness. And the reason why I think that me and Phil work so good together is because we're a great team. I always joke around and say, you're the beauty and I'm the brains in this relationship.
I'd agree with that. He's prettier than you are.
Just kidding. But he focuses on technology, innovation, the stuff that we need. And I focus on the advocacy and the political side of it. And that's what I'm passionate. Like, he will spend 8 hours on an oscilloscope. I will spend 8 hours reading a bill. And put those two together, now you have a great database and a great outlet to get everything that you need to know about vaping. And that's why I think that we work so well. And that's why a lot of people invite us to come speak as a team, that we can give that whole broad scope of what the industry is and how it's evolved and where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Although most people actually let you speak.
Yes.
Because we're going to England now with our thoughts. And the most recent thought from England was you tried to do an advocacy speech this last weekend at Vape Jam, which we had a freaking great show. It's Vape Jam.
Yeah.
And what happened there? You didn't get to talk.
Well, it was unfortunate the way that Vape Jam evolved. We were there last year, and we did a Q&A session on stage with Phil, and I think all the vapors absolutely loved it. And again, we were going back and forth, so people were asking questions. I mean, they were asking some funny questions, like, what kind of underwear you wear, or who's the top, who's the pitcher, that's fine, and that's great. We love doing that, because I think that fun
Boxer briefs.
And this is what was ironic, because they called him the fun police. But if you've partied with Phil, he's a party guy, right? And we have a lot of fun. But we did it last year. A lot of people enjoyed it. And this year, I got contacted by the organizers that said, we want to add Grim Green to the mix. All three of you come up, and we'll do a Q&A session for... And we were advertised on the bill as having a Q&A session, by the way. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. So it wasn't really that we got butt hurt that we didn't have the main stage. We got to talk to a lot of people. Everybody that we go to these events in the UK is always so... The hospitality, and they're so friendly, and we love talking to everybody. And I think if you ask any of the vapors that were there, when they stopped me and Phil to talk, we gave everybody as much time as we could to discuss it, because we like doing that. So at some point, we were supposed to do this Q&A session on the stage. We have actually thought about some fun stuff to do with Nick, because this would probably be the first time that me and Nick and Phil would be on the stage. So we wanted to have a lot of fun with it. So me and Phil had devised this evil plan of kind of winding up Nick and just putting him out there and let him go off. We were going to talk about his knuckles.
I'm sad we don't have that on YouTube.
So it was supposed to be really, really fun. And most importantly, I was going to talk about the TBD, which is coming into effect next month. So, I mean, you want to talk about something that's really, really serious. The TBD is something that everybody should know about.
In fact, that's exactly what I aim to do, is this clever segue directly into the TBD, as Luke wanted.
Yeah.
It just never happened. From our point of view, a lot of vapors that paid to come to this event were looking forward to it. And they kept asking us, when are you going to talk? When are you going to talk? When are you going to talk? And we were like, we don't know. So we'd go to the organizers and ask them, hey, when do you want to do this? And they're like, oh, I don't know, and we'll let you know. Or go to the office and ask, and which, I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to go to the ask in the office. You're the ones that invited us to speak. But
yeah, that's the classic brush off.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, it is what it is. All I know is that we did our part to help. We wanted to justify our position with the vapors, those that actually were caring enough to come listen, and those that wanted to hear about the TBD didn't get a chance to. So it never happened. Other than that portion of our trip, everything else was great. We had a great time hanging out with people. We always have a great time going to, meeting people that you see online. I got to meet Todd for the first time,
yeah,
which was really that was just a highlight for me. I love his reviews. I've been watching him for a long time. We got a picture of Todd, me, Phil, and Nick. I mean, these are once in a lifetime opportunities,
That's
right?
solid gold. Now we have to get Nick Green on this show.
Yeah.
He'll have all four.
And Nick was bummed about it as well too.
Yeah.
Don't make no mistake. Me and Phil were a little bit more vocal about it because, I just don't want vapors to feel that we let them down. It wasn't by us, okay? I don't want people to think that we were too diva to speak or whatever. It just didn't happen. There was cloud competitions going on. There were model contests going on, and that's fine. It's good to have a good balance and have fun. I like a model just like any other guy that's out there. However, we didn't get an opportunity to speak of some of the important stuff. So there was the balance was not there. We had all the fun stuff, which is great, but we didn't get a chance to talk about the TBD. And to segue into that, the TBD that is coming into effect next week. Listen, I will tell you that I am complete. In fact, BBC Radio did an interview with me at Vape Jam of the TBD, and I'm not from Europe. I mean, I'm coming from the States, so that's how important it was. But I do not agree with some of the restrictions that the TPD has and the way that the system has come about to regulate this program. Now, having said that, it's not the end of the world. There is some stuff that the companies need to do in the next 6 months by registering their product. The manufacturers of hardware will have to make some changes to comply. E-liquid manufacturers will have to make some changes to comply. But the product will be around. And I think that's extremely important. Let's not forget that. The ingenuity of vapors. I mean, we took a flashlight and we made it into a device to deliver nicotine.
Yeah,
right?
an old power drill and some wire.
Right. That will never stop. And I think that we're always going to have, especially for us that have been vaping for a long time, I think we're always going to have access. It's unfortunate for some of the smokers and some of the new vapors that are out there, some of their limitations that they're going to have. So there is a timeline set by the TBD starting next month. You will have to start applying for your product and submitting your applications.
Can you just do a quick little bullet point view of what the TBD is going to entail real quick before we go any further?
I can tell you some of the restrictions. 10 ml bottle only for liquid, 20 milligram for nicotine strength, which I think 20 milligram at this point with the devices that we have is sufficient.
I agree.
I hate that we don't have 24 and 36. There are people out there that enjoy it, but it's a very, very small, minute portion. And I think the people that still vape 36 milligram, they probably have to DIY now because I don't think anybody that offers 36 milligram in a pre-made product.
Not many, if any.
Yeah. So some advertising restrictions, like for example, Vape Jam will probably not be able to be advertised as Vape Jam next year, which is what I wanted to talk about as well too on the stage. So there'll be some advertising restrictions. There is, when it comes to liquids, there is a whole constituent list that has to be tested on emissions, even though it's still not clear exactly on the details of that. Formaldehydes, diacetyl,
right.
Some of the other stuff that they have listed, and there's companies out there now that are kind of advertising TPD compliance, which is it's still not clear exactly what the direction. I think that the TPD regulations will take 3 or 4 years to be finalized. Because as these applications are coming in, I think the TPD will take a look at it. Maybe they'll be able to work with the industry a little bit more and make some adjustments as we go along. And the other thing that I want to mention about the TPD is that the TPD has set this standard. So they said this is the minimum that every country has to do in the European Union to regulate this product. So some countries like the UK has announced that we're going to take this minimum standard that TPD has set. But other countries have the right to enforce it more strict. So they can ask for, 100 constituents when you're testing your product. So you have a basis that you have to do to comply. And then some countries like Germany and Holland, we know they're going to come after heavily, especially Germany with so much pharmaceutical ties with Bayer there and all that. Keep that in mind as well too.
I'm surprised Holland would be that strict with it.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, there's always a backstory. So there's always someone behind, whether it's big tobacco, big pharmaceutical companies, or whatever it is. And make no mistake about it, that BAT and some of the other big tobacco companies in Europe had a lot to do with this TPD.
Yeah, because Holland is especially a place where culturally, for hundreds of years, they've been people who understood harm reduction. Mm-hmm. So it's especially telling that those people would be against it because they're generally very smart about ignoring things that don't actually hurt people.
Right.
Yeah. What are your
so thank you for doing that summary, by the way.
We spoke with Todd when we had him on last week a little bit about the 10 ml bottle issue, and we've got a lot of companies in the UK that bring in American e-juices, and he said his shop that he works for went around asking a lot of the American vendors what they were going to do for the TBD, and a lot of them weren't willing to even think about making 10 ml bottles, because obviously the lowest from America usually is 15. What are your thoughts on that?
Do something. When I was in Poland, I was asked to do a presentation, and one of the questions that I got from the crowd was exactly what you said. They asked me, with the influx of American liquid in the EU, how do you foresee the market next year? And I said, don't you fucking worry about it. 90% of the companies that you see here won't be here next year because they don't give a shit. Right? They don't give a shit. They're not going to go through the entire process. It's a quick money grab. They're dumping all this product into the EU market now. And this is what you're seeing, a huge influx, because all they're doing is dumping their product. And when it comes time for them to comply, they're going to say, oh, we're just not selling to Europe anymore. And I highly suggest the vape shop owners, if they want to have sustainability and they want to have a product, to really get information from their companies on the product that they're selling. The company that I work for, I have spent the past year doing TPD compliance for them, because that's my job. My job is government affairs and regulatory compliance to start the product. We started 2 months ago the process of testing the product, and even if it's a 10 ml, listen, there's ways to market a 10 ml bottle to make it attractive. Put 3 10 mls in a nice little packaging, make it a 30 ml or even a 50 ml if you want. There's ways to get around that. Keep in mind, zero nicotine will not be affected as well too, so that does not give you any restrictions. Again, when you're bottling your product, so there's a lot of stuff out there.
Are there restrictions on the display in the store? Because that's another way that we get around this, is we put a pretty hero bottle up and then you get your little 10 ml on the way out.
You can. I mean, I never suggest to loophole the system. I think if we want to legitimize this industry, we have to play by the rules. But I
don't think that's a loophole. Makeup does it all the time.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. But I think that we can sustain this, even though I disagree with it. I hate it. I don't like the TBD. I don't like these rules. I don't think they fit the product. But I think they're going to realize it as well too. And it's not a final, okay? I mean, the TBD rule is final. However, I think that as we're progressing in the next couple of years, we're going to see a change, and we're going to see maybe some different ways of working with the industry to let them know that, hey, people that are switching this product want options. They want this. They want that. Let's try to work with the government, and let's try to work with those that are making the rules, and not just let the big tobacco companies enforce the rules like they did with the TPD and the people that they work. We had to do a lot of sacrifices, and I know from people from within the industry that were working with the TPD, they had to give up stuff, right? And the 10 ml again was something that we kind of had to give up in order to keep the product on the market. So sometimes, you gotta do what you gotta do. And when you get into the situation where you're playing with these multi-billion-dollar companies, you have to give some stuff up. And that's exactly what happened there. And it's unfortunate, but it's the reality. And people have to realize that it's a reality and it's not going away. You can't put your head in the sand and think it's going to go away, because it's not.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And also, the company, if it's the right thing, then companies that are in it to stay will adapt to whatever we have to. And I always point out too that people don't realize that slowly but surely laws can change too. If it's written by a human being on a piece of paper and it's legislated, it can be changed no matter what anybody tells you. It was written in the first place, and it can get rewritten. So, these things aren't permanent.
That's the same thing what's happening with the FDA now. I mean, the FDA cannot regulate this product. That's why we've seen such a huge delay. And even when the FDA regulations come out, there will be some litigation. For the actual product itself, it's going to take 5 years to get a regulatory framework in the United States on manufacturing, distribution, advertising. It's going to take a long time. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think that the big companies, obviously here in the United States, have influence. RJR by itself, rye by itself here in the United States is a $90 billion industry. This is one company. And we, as an open vapor space, I'm estimating us at about $4 billion a year. So we're not that big by any means, but we have to be able to sell our products to continue to get bigger in order to have a bigger seat at that table where those decisions are being made. And we're just not there yet.
I mean, we also have to team up as an industry and say, like you mentioned, the cash grab. And I talk about this a lot in the show. And that is that there's a cash grab going on right now, and you have to distinguish when you're buying things, who's in it for the cash grab and who's not. And people, like he said there, guys, people who are not giving money to advocacy and who aren't talking the right way about this stuff, don't give them money. Even if it looks cool and all your friends are vaping it, don't do it.
Yeah, with this mindset of we should be buying what's popular on Instagram, and we have to get out of that. It's all consumer driven. And, unless that changes, I don't think we're going to see any changes from I've seen emails that come in that say, oh, you need to carry this liquid in your store because we have 40,000 Instagram followers. That's their selling point. Not this is where we make it. This is our manufacturing standards. This is what we're doing for the industry. This is how we're participating in advocacy. This is how we're fighting. We're selling you this product because we have 40,000 Instagram followers. Well, that has to change. That has to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And then, the current thing is that Philip Rock changed the industry by showing that you can make a little indie line with 1 or 2 juices. So now all the people that are bad have made little cool-looking 1 juice at a time labels to fool you into buying their juice even more, to grab more of that too. It's just all a marketing thing for them. And you can just watch every new flavor, every new trend. They latch right onto it with some new thing. And you think it's spontaneous, but it's not. It's a grab. They'll disappear if we get harsh regulations.
I'm a believer of the free market. I think everybody should be able to stay in business, but at some point you have to play by the rules, and the rules are coming. So what are we going to do to be able to sustain and pass that window of the FDA to keep selling our product? Will everybody make it? No. I mean, let's be realistic. That happens in every industry, though, right? It's not just our industry. It happens in every industry that explodes like that, and then the big guys kind of take over and the little guys. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that the system is here. However, here we do have a possibility with this product to show responsibility and ethics and try to have concentrate our efforts to be able to sustain and be able to sell the product in the future. And the more widespread and thinned out as we're going, it's working against us. And that's what we're seeing now with states trying to pass laws and our congressmen that are still sitting up there and saying that we're marketing to kids.
And we were lucky in Washington this last 2 weeks ago, they passed a good law in this state that preempted all of the local stupid regulations that kept vape shops from letting people vape and made sure that we protect children and stuff.
And again, that was a compromise in your state.
It sure was.
I'm proud of the group there that actually stepped up to work with them. Again, it's not the ideal situation, and this goes to what happened in Washington last week with the coal bill. It's not the ideal situation, but at some point you have to compromise, and you're going to say, hey, listen, instead of them banning it, let's try to work with them, and I'll give you something, you give me something. And that's exactly what happened in your state, and I commend the Pink Lung Brigade, I think it is there.
Yeah, it is, Pink Lung Brigade.
And the other groups that got involved in Washington State to be able to keep the product around. And there's nothing wrong with having a minimum regulatory framework within a state as well, too. Okay, can we agree 18 plus? Yes. Can we agree childproof caps? Yes. Can we agree we have to register these shops, at least to have a way to enforce them? Yes, absolutely. This is stuff that we can all agree on if we're responsible manufacturers.
Yeah, and that registration thing was a great compromise because it saved them some silly excise tax of 50% a bottle or something. So instead, they paid less than $200 a year.
That's right.
And then you get to vape in their shop in Auburn now, which is so embarrassing to go into a shop and look the guy in the eye that owns the place and him look at you and go, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, poor guy.
You spoke a little bit about the next year not being able to advertise because of that rule they put in there. How have they actually said how they're going to enforce stopping people from advertising?
No, unfortunately we haven't. But I mean, once you see a few fines or whatever, I'm sure it's going to tighten up. And listen, this industry was built on YouTube. I've said it 100 times, and I'm saying it. All right, we would not be in vaping if it wasn't for people like Nick Grimm Green and some of the early guys that got on YouTube and made this product available for us to look at and buy. So we're not going to, so as far as social media is going, is concerned, we're not going anywhere. But then again, I might get some flack for saying this. We do sell nicotine. So, I mean, we have to have some kind of a restriction, right? I mean, we have to have some kind of a fair. We want to be able to describe our product. Hey, this product is nicotine, but it's less harmful than a cigarette. We want to be able to say that. So, again, it's a compromise that we have to live with. You might have to advertise the event in a different way. You might not, but, people will show up. It'll be the same thing. But, the enforcement still is not, 100% right. Just like some of the constituents that they have, some of the emissions are not finalized, which kind of sucks because, we're doing testing on products with the bare minimums right now.
Yeah.
I have some country that says, oh, we also need this. So you have to go back and add to your testing. But that's just the way I think any other, especially with such a complex product, you have to start somewhere. So there's no ideal situation that I can tell the FDA to, hey, regulate this product. This is the best way to do it. It's impossible. And it's impossible for them to do it as well, too. So
I just wonder about the implications. The only thing that really bothers me is the implications of somebody in the UK doing YouTube reviews of these things and then having to dance around the fact that they're vaping or
I
something.
don't think
That's
it's
just
going to be a case. I think it's going to be just
either.
advertising when it comes by the people that are selling the product. I don't think that the YouTubers and the people
Seems like it.
really will have any issue to do that. I really don't believe that's going to be the case.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That would be the best solution because it seems so weird and unenforceable and a strange abridgment of free speech and all kinds of other things. It's just, for the companies, it's one thing.
Litigation issue at that point, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? I know nothing's been mentioned about it at the moment, but do you think they'll try and stop websites from advertising flavor concentrates for vaping for DIYing?
I don't think that they can.
No.
I mean, if the product does not contain nicotine, I can't see how they're going to be able to enforce anything. The way that you word it might be. I mean, if you go to any flavoring company now, especially non-vaping flavoring companies, they put it blatant on their site. Hey, we don't sell our flavors to be used in electronic cigarettes. But guess what? Everybody does. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
so I again, when the product does not contain nicotine, they're going to have a really hard time making a case against anything.
Okay. Do you think maybe in the future, if it gets worse, a lot more companies will just sell their liquid without nicotine, and obviously you can then put it in yourself?
I don't see any future in that. I really don't. In fact, it's going to work against them. It's something that I talked about on BBC because their question was that they've heard an influx of people, buying nicotine to store, and I said I think the government's going to realize quickly that having people actually get raw materials is going to hurt more people than what vaping is doing now. So
we have a number of issues. Yeah.
There's a lot of issues there.
Handling, storage, consumption, mathematics, all that.
Sure, and I think that they're going to realize quickly that they can't do it. They'd rather have a product that's on the market that is finished product, sealed product to give to the smokers than it is for them to, hey, meet me down the corner, I'll give you a quarter of nicotine. And also the other issue with that is that there's going to be a black market created. Yeah. So right now there's a huge black market of cigarettes in the EU, and I'm sure if you don't know now, Bulgaria and Lithuania, these are hubs for black market cigarettes. And I think if they see this huge influx of black market coming along where people are just selling liquid on the websites unregulated, I think the government's going to wake up and they're going to say, hey, we got a huge issue here. So again, it's something that I think it's going to take some time. I don't think zero nicotine has any place in our industry as a beginner's product. If you don't have nicotine in your liquid, you're not going to get a smoker to quit.
I agree. I'm not exactly a big fan of converting people directly into hobbyists. My number one thing is getting people off cigarettes. And then if you choose to keep vaping, then you can either stay with your T18 or whatever, or become a hobbyist. But I think that's the first step, no matter what. Some people, it's instant. Like you were done. Some people, it takes a year. For me, it took a couple of years because I didn't really care that much. Sure. But I think it's very important not to confuse those things. Because you would definitely want people to be able to buy nicotine e-liquid and 18 at least over the counter to start.
I love nicotine. I don't want it to go away. I mean, I'm sorry.
But my girlfriend doesn't like it, but I like it too.
I said that one time to a politician. I just kind of slipped my mouth because it doesn't really sound good when you tell a politician, "Hey, I love nicotine." You sound like you're a junkie or something like that. But the truth is that it's not nicotine that's the problem. It's the delivery method that's the problem. So if you take away caffeine from somebody that drinks a cup of coffee every morning, they're going to have withdrawals. And
you shut your dirty mouth.
Yeah. So that's nicotine is key to be able to remain into a problem. Let's not try to always manipulate the system and loophole the system. It's going to work against us. We want to legitimize vaping. Vaping is here to stay, and we want people to try out the product, and we want them to convert it, and we want combustible tobacco to go away.
Yeah, and keep telling people it's all about quitting smoking. If people ask you, tell them that the only purpose of this device is to quit smoking, and the rest is just staying quit. And I just want to interrupt for 1 second and say, if you guys like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're going to bring you more great interviews and more great people for the rest of the year, obviously. And we have to wrap it up relatively soon because Luke has to go to work, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would like to ask one more question that was in the chat. David asked, do you still use fiberglass wicks, or have you claimed cotton is king?
No.
I wrote that down to ask too.
I cannot use cotton. I use Fiber Freaks, which is a cellular cotton. So this is what I use in all my rebuildables now. They have a cotton blend, and then they have the regular cellular cotton, which is what I use. And it's the only thing that doesn't bother me. If I use strict cotton all the time, it does bother my throat. It tightens up my throat. The coils from the super tank, they're not pure cotton. There's some kind of a fibrous material inside there, so I can use that as well too.
Oh, that's very interesting. No wonder you
Yeah.
like that thing. I didn't know you had a slight sensitivity to that.
I have, and I think a lot of people do. They just don't realize what it is. Sometimes when it gets them, if I use cotton exclusively for a very long time, for like a week, I get a tightness in my throat. And I don't think it's really an allergic reaction because I can use cotton shirts or whatever. I just think it's just something that happens when I vape on it constantly. So I get kind of like a tightness in my throat, and I feel like my vertigo is off a little bit. So I quickly realized that 3 years ago when the K-Fun came along, and I was like, oh my god, I can build with cotton. It's so easy. And then I used it for a while. Went back to silica. I was building my K-Fun with silica for a long time. But let's be honest. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. So
yeah.
when I've discovered Fiber Freaks, they have two. They have a density 1 and a density 2. I can use both of them. I prefer the first one because it looks a lot more cotton and it's more pliable. So that's what I use. I use Fiber Freaks to sell you cotton, not the cotton blend.
And I actually I use Cotton Bacon V2, but I tell you, I've used the Fiber Freaks V2, the second density, and I love that stuff. Love it, no question. If I could buy it all the time, I would buy it and Cotton Bacon V2.
Density 2 is good for drippers. They seem to absorb more liquid, but it doesn't work very well in a K-Fun. In the K-Fun, you want a little bit more of a juice flow in order to keep that thing wicking. So that's what I use.
Yeah, I've got bacon in the Typhoon right now. This is like a 17 watt, 1.3 ohm thing I got in here, and
I'm vaping 13 watts, 1.2 ohm.
That's right, baby. People underestimate, especially those of us who love to drip. Like I love to drip, like everybody else. 125, 150 watts loop. That's all he does. But never forget, these are delicious, and don't let anyone tell you these are king of flavor.
Sure,
just saying, king of flavor.
If you're vaping for flavor, that's where it's at.
I love it. Well, I can't tell you enough, and we're going to wrap up here. But Dimitri, I can't tell you how grateful we are that you came to the show. You've been such a great guest. It's been so much fun.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I would love to just end on you letting people know what they can do and what they need to do to obviously fight what we're going against at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. So there's two groups of people here. We have the consumer, and then we have the industry. So as a consumer, obviously here in the United States, join Casaa. It's the number one consumer advocacy organization. Not only does it increase their database, so when they're advocating for their product as a consumer, they can show, hey, Casaa has 50,000 members, 100,000 members. The more people that they have, the more power that they have in a legislative session and advocating for the product. And number two, it also keeps you informed if something locally is happening. So by joining Casaa, you're automatically entered into a database. So if something happens in your state, you automatically get an email, or even your counties. If we see something onerous that's going on in Georgia, now there's a mayor that wants to ban e-cigs in the entire city. They'll keep you informed and let you know what's happening in your state. Also, as a consumer, the most important thing that you can do is register to vote. This is your biggest power in this country. It's free. It's your God-given right to vote. And if we don't register to vote, then we lose the only opportunity that we have to actually make a change. A vote is more important than you vaping at this stage. If you're a one-issue voter like I'm a one-issue voter. I'm a registered Republican. I vote bipartisan, but I will always vote against somebody that tries to take away vape, right? Now, I don't care what political party they're at. So by registering to vote, you show your power, and you can also go to a politician, and they will listen to you. If you're not a registered voter, you're irrelevant to them. It doesn't really make a difference what you say.
Yeah.
Now, from an industry perspective, trade associations, state and federal trade associations are extremely important. It's unfortunate that not all states are organized, but the majority of them are now. They have 1, 2, in some cases 3 state associations. Find the one that fits your profile better. Find the one that you can agree with. The same with the federal. There's quite a few federal trade associations out there now, and some of them you might agree, some of them you don't agree. All you have to agree is 75%. That 75% is key. You don't have to agree 100% with what the association is doing. You have to agree 75% that, hey, we want this product to be around, so you need to contribute financially. Don't let vapors pay for lobbyists. I think that's the stupidest thing. My car has never sent me an email saying, hey, can you help us, with some money because we want to lobby on behalf of seatbelts.
You're already paying. Every time you pay $25 for a 30 mil of juice, you're paying $10 that they could be giving to advocacy.
For 30 mil of juice, you're paying too much. That's
what I'm saying, is that they're already gouging the piss out of you.
Right. So, and as a consumer, ask what they're doing as well too, and vote with your money. If you go to a vendor and they're not doing anything for it, say, hey, why aren't you not participating in my state? Why aren't you participating on a federal matter? And I think that the businesses that are seeing the bigger picture and they're seeing that we want to be around for a long term. Now, if you are a business that you want to have a short term gain, hey, I'm just going to do this for a couple of years and bank, that's fine. If that's your business model, I have nothing against it. I just don't want to support you and I don't want to fight for you, even though in some cases we do, because that's just the nature of the beast. But consumers are the ones ultimately that drive this industry, and they have to be aware of what's going on constantly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great way to end this thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Just thank you again for obviously coming on.
Got to bring one more thing up.
Yeah.
I got two things up. Obviously, I'm doing Smoke Free Radio back on smokefreeradio.com. We have a really great host panel over there that does shows every week, and for Vapor Trails TV, I do segments for them as well too. I love the guys over there in the UK, so I'm part of their team as well too. There was a question on your wall about somebody on VP Live that has an agenda with me that I want to address here.
I forgot. Yeah, that's fun.
And I mean, give me the opportunity since you brought that question up on the pre-show. But I think the guy's name is Ed Wolf that has apparently has a huge boner for me and Phil. To me, I took this decision, when I was on Smoke Free Radio on VP Live, to not get involved in the drama. I'm looking forward. I'm looking at the goal, and my goal is to keep this product around, to advocate for tobacco harm reduction. If somebody has an issue with me, I always suggest that they come to me and talk, and let's try to find a solution. We might not always agree, but you have to respect. If you don't have respect in this industry, you're not going to get anywhere. If you just want to be vape famous and you're starting attacking people that have been in this industry for a very long time, that have taken time away from their families, like I have, to advocate for this product, and always strive to do the right thing, then you have a problem. I don't have a problem. So I always advise people that listen to this, just listen to what people are saying and then make your own determination. We're not kids. We're all vaping. We're all adults. You have to be 18 plus, right, to vape, right? So you're an adult. Listen to what people are saying and make your own decision. Why somebody would have an agenda against me and Phil that me and Phil have maintained since day one. And I think it's hurt us, from the cloud chasers and from that, enthusiast group. We've always maintained that we want to help smokers, and that's why we continue to do what we do. And we're always going to be that way. We're always going to stick to that same path and make your own determination.
Yeah, be a grown up.
Yeah, definitely. We do need to wrap this up, but I would like to get a yes or no answer. Do you think, because obviously at the moment the UK are thinking about leaving the EU, will we then have to comply with the TPD if we leave?
No, you don't, but it's not going to happen. I mean, I tell you, I would love Greece to leave the EU. Trust me, we're getting raped right now in Greece. And the guy that's been voted on said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm never going to take money from Germany again. Guess what he just did last week? He just tried to get more money in. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I wish we could leave, but they will not allow us to leave. But listen, that's not the solution either. The solution is to keep fighting and keep promoting this product and try to play by the rules. It's tough, I get it, but ideally, if you left the EU, you wouldn't have to comply with anything.
But the truth is, the EU is truly one of the greatest things that civilization's ever created, and it's better to work with it because they've done something that we never dreamt of in all of the world, and that's create common governments that actually work. For multiple
it has
nations.
A lot of advantages. It does. For some of the poorer countries like Greece and Ireland and even Italy is having a lot of problems. Portugal. For some of those countries, unfortunately, they're having a hard time financially because of the bigger countries in the EU are kind of dictating the way that things are going. Again, we're going back to one issue. I mean, I can bring 100 issues that's wrong with Greece that have nothing to do with vaping. I'm a one-issue voter, and my issue is vaping. So when it comes to vaping in the EU, good thing, it's going to be around. Bad thing, it's going to be restricted. So let's try to find a common ground between those two and continue to spread the word on tobacco harm reduction.
Love it. Yes. That's killer. All right. Well, everybody in chat, we love all of you guys. I wish I could name everybody and thank you to one of you individually and give you a hug and a kiss, but I can't. But we love y'all. Like and subscribe. Dimitri, you've been fantastic. Luke, you're the man. Have a great day at work.
Yep.
Let's vape out, shall we?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Baby clouds.